Spiked Up, episode 13. Lucky 13. We're lucky enough to have a great guest, Academy Director, and one of my favorite people in life, Tony Annan. Tony, we've known each other a long time. I think I was writing down some notes. I think you were either employee 6 or 7. I think I was 5. Darren was 1. So we've been talking on the podcast about, kind of talking about some of the good old days and doing some episodes about that. But we can get into kind of how we built this thing and how you've built this thing and done a great job with our academy and how the players have grown and how we're one club. But I cannot thank you enough for joining Spiked Up today.
My privilege. I'm just glad to see you've hit the B-listers and got me on. So I'm.
Yeah. You know what it is, Tony. Once you get to 13, you're struggling. You're scraping the barrel. So
I wondered how I got the call, I have to say.
Yeah, we had Mike and some other big names, and they're like, well, I think it's time to get Tony Annan on.
Yeah, me and Meg Vic right there alongside each other.
But Tony, You mentioned Tony, Matt, and so I remember when I first came, I met Tony probably before even you, because there was like a expat community, and I remember they said, fancy coming to play a soccer game. As I met that was the first time, Tony, when we met.
I'll correct you. It was in Fido's for breakfast. I was there with my dad watching Newcastle play, and you were having breakfast with somebody across the pond. I recognised you. Stopped and said hello, and then you came over and chatted. And then the next week we played in a football match together.
That's when we had the game. Yeah, that was.
It was fake.
But I know I've told the story before, but we got to know Tony, and Tony obviously been in the Atlanta area for a long time, and a very well-respected coach. And we'd got talking, and the philosophy, myself, Carlos, Tony, I think we're pretty joined up about how we want to be a team that we want to be this world-class club, but we want to be developing our own talent pipeline. And I think my experience at Tottenham, they did a great job there of, even though it's a top club, caring about the youth and having that one club mentality. But I remember, Tony, we were thinking, we've got to be sure that you're our guy. And that was when, I can never remember where it was, but somewhere over Brookhaven way. When Carl and I went to watch you coach.
Field.
That was it. And we were like, right, we can't let him know. He just knew we were going to come and watch the session over the next month. And we sneaked into the backwoods to watch it. And it was great. I mean, we were impressed. The sessions were good. You could tell the kids were respectful but disciplined. So all of the things you were looking for. But we were getting bitten to death by the mosquitoes, and about halfway through your first session, we had to skulk out of the backdrop, bitten to death, and you were just like, "What the heck?"
Went for a bite to eat after, and you had like 4 welts on your forehead. I was like, "What's wrong with this guy?"
That is
good times. Good times.
That's the best part of our club. Like, that's my favorite part, is the stories like that. I remember my first time I met Tony, I was going to BS with Carlos in his office. And I kind of went in and said, tell him a joke. And then he's like, no, come on in, meet Tony. And then the next thing I know, it was 30 minutes of us kind of just having a good laugh and having a good time. So that was my first time meeting Tony, and was like, man, I hope we get this guy. It'll be great. So, but hey, Darren, I was going to ask you, and then Tony can chime in on that. Just, I've been in a lot of meetings with you. I've been in a lot of sessions, a lot of interviews with you. The academy is so important, and how connected the academy is to the USL and first team and just development. I would love for both of you guys to speak on the importance of the academy and the development, and how we all have the same philosophy.
Yeah, let me kick it off, Matt, and then I'll let Tony sort of develop the point. But I think that, firstly, about, a lot of clubs talk about the importance of the academy, but I think, we put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. We set the academy up before, as you remember, before we were playing in the first team. And that was because it was really important to us to get that core sort of identity and acceptance that this is what our club's about, developing youth. We then have our USL team as well, which is part of the pathway. But, right from the start, which is why, Tony was really important as that first hire. Someone, again, and I used a parallel with Tony that I had with Carlos. It was someone in the youth area that knew it and had been here, and it wasn't a case of just saying, right, we're coming in here, we've got to bring everybody in from outside because no one knows what they're doing, because, when we accept that, Tony, I know you'll talk a little bit more on it, but we didn't invent youth soccer. We didn't invent player development. There was a lot of people doing a lot of great work in Atlanta, and we're very fortunate to come to such a rich seam of talent and great coaches. But our aim was then to put in place Atlanta United at the top of that pyramid, and how could we best help create pathways for those players to get to that elite performance level. And Tony was really important in that. And look, I mean, Tony, perhaps you could share, now we're on, what are we now? Is it season 4? Perhaps going to 5 of the academy?
Yeah, we obviously missed the back end of season 4, and then season 5 hopefully is on the horizon in August, September. But to echo Darren's comment, I mean, we would be nothing without the city's clubs, without the organisation of the city, without the passion of the city's directors and youth clubs that are in the city. We wouldn't be anything without them. They feed us, they work with us, they provide players that we then take and hopefully elevate. But without them, this thing wouldn't be where it is today, and it wouldn't have rose so quickly. We are, sometimes the envy of other academies, because we do have a rich pool of talent that's very diverse. But, we're the top of the pyramid, but there's so many shining stars below us that feed us players constantly. And the relationships between the clubs and our club is fantastic. I mean, 99% of the clubs are behind us, happy to support us. But we do give back, and it's a two-way street. It's not just us taking talent from their market. We do give back a lot, and obviously we include everybody in everything we do. So the relationship between myself and the directors in Atlanta is very, very good. And I think it was obviously I love my job and I love what I do, but I think it was a very shrewd move of Carlos and Darren to obviously recruit somebody who has the relationships in the market. So it wasn't such a rocky road like a lot of MLS academies have had when they've entered a market as big and as talented as this.
And so my kids are in youth soccer right now in the Atlanta area and in club. And I see exactly what you said, the passion, the commitment, and just how many kids are playing. Can you just kind of speak on like the health of youth soccer in not only Atlanta, but maybe, this region?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Atlanta United has elevated the game, and it's put it on a different platform than it was before, even 5 years ago. The numbers are higher, there's more kids playing. There's obviously more clubs now as well. There's a lot more opportunity has sprung within the city for people to start clubs and, obviously benefit the soccer landscape. But the rural region, I mean, if you go around the southeast, they're just exponential growth in the last 10 years has been outstanding. And I think a lot of it's due to obviously the MLS, the league being at the forefront of the game in this country. But obviously clubs like Atlanta United who have engulfed the city and the passion of the city and really promoted it and put it, I think Darren said it before, it was always here, it was always boiling away, but we've put the game on steroids and we've shown where it can be taken. And that, obviously, to be part of that and to build that and to help be, I think I was number 6 or number 7 is an absolute honour for me. And this is my city. I mean, it's where I've been.
Metaphorically, let me stress.
Yes, metaphorically. Very good. There's your Cambridge education, Darren. There you go. But yeah, it's been brilliant. I mean, it's just an exciting experiment every day. It's not, the effect has not wore off yet. So.
And it was cool today. We had training and watching. You're looking out there. You're seeing George Bello, seeing George Campbell, Tyler Wolf. A lot of our homegrown players coming through, training with the first team. Give our fans a bit of excitement of how do you feel like as each year goes on? Are you feeling like there's talent coming through?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Obviously, we're refining how we do it. The processes, we've made mistakes. We're going to make mistakes, but we feel good about the position we're in now and the method we're using to try and produce those players. Obviously, George Campbell's been with me since he was a young kid. Bello came in from one of the better clubs in Atlanta, who produced really good young players, Alfred Ambush. And then we took him and we put him on an individual plan and elevated him. And We feel like the longer we're around, our recruitment's better now. We know the profile we're looking for now. We feel like there's 4 or 5 in the next 2 or 3 years that are going to be pushing for contracts, that are going to be forcing us to say, we have to give this kid a chance. And then below them, the pool just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And obviously the diversity of our teams gives us a great choice of player, especially for the profile of each individual position. It just gives us so much choice. Even though we bring kids from out of market that are exceptional, we've got so much talent in market that forces us to be the best we can be, to produce players for the future, which we are confident we'll always have a stream of Atlanta kids that can make it through.
Yeah, that's great. And how, just for the benefit of our listeners, how does Atlanta United 2 fit into the whole sort of pathway, and how important is that to you in your role?
It's hugely important. We couldn't do without it. I mean, the first year we had it, it probably would have benefited some of those players. Obviously, we had Andrew and Chris and those guys who tried to make the jump from youth team football to first team football, and that jump it's huge. The void they have to jump over to get in there it's almost impossible. So to have Atlanta 2 as a pathway from U18, U19 soccer, even U17, for them to be able to train next to professional players, and then it's just the next step on a career and a process of becoming a professional for our first team. And without that, it's such a hard jump, physically, mentally, even technically. The speed of the game and playing against guys who are being paid for a living to feed their families, it's a different game altogether. So without Atlanta 2, without that pathway piece for us, it would be really challenging to produce players like George Bello, George Campbell, and the next crop that are coming through. You have to be able to, it's the process to build a professional footballer. And if you don't have that piece, I think it's a big miss. And I think a lot of clubs are missing out by not having that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. It's interesting. We spent a lot of time when I was at Spurs in the Premier League trying to get feeder clubs into the FA, and we just, because of the histories, it's difficult to get that. But I think watching the match the other day, Spurs playing West Ham, and Ryan Fredericks is playing right back for West Ham, and he was a Spurs player, but there was just no, he was player number 5 on the depth chart, and it was literally, he was never going to make that jump. There was no feeder club system. I think we've got a real benefit in having that system. And even for like Miles Robinson, Miles Robinson got a season to develop. Luis, who we saw play earlier on, he came on, through the USL team.
We were talking to Alex Inglethorpe, who runs Liverpool's academy now, and he had a great story about Harry Kane. And I know you've told the story about Harry Kane. Harry Kane was a silver medalist until he was 18 years old. He wasn't even in thought. And he said, Brad Friedel walked in his office one day and said to John and him, that Harry Kane, he finishes like Robbie Fowler. And he said, we both looked at each other and said, what? He says, yeah, I've never seen anybody finish like him since Robbie Fowler. He says, and that day, we elevated Harry and pushed Harry into the reserves and put him on loan. And all of a sudden, Harry Kane becomes one of the best strikers in the world. But he was a silver medalist. And that's the thing. It's, if you take a 17-year-old guy who's mega talented and you throw him in the first team, 9 times out of 10, he's not going to hit, or he's not going to be able to do what he does. So he has to take that next step, and he has to develop in another environment that's a different set of pressures for him to be able to become that gold medalist. And that's kind of our thought now with Atlanta 2. And to be honest, Stephen and Henry do an unbelievable job of welcoming the youth into it, accepting it, and pushing them along. So we feel like we've got a really good process for a gold medalist, a silver medalist, to come through our ranks and really push through to the first team.
Well, switching gears, we always ask our guests, how has quarantine life been for you? I know you're at the training ground, you're social distancing and helping out and coaching the twos a lot, but how's it been? I know you have different circumstances, at your house because you're home a lot by yourself with the kids. So how's everything been?
Yeah, my wife's a nurse. God bless her.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to her. Like I didn't know if you wanted to say that or not, but you did. So
Oh, absolutely. I think
kudos to her for
she's my hero at the moment.
being one of the
So.
workers. Yeah.
But actually, after 3.5 months of looking after my kids, she's also a hero in my house. So it was great because the first month I was like, right, no TV. We're going to do Spanish lessons with flashcards. We're going to get out and we're going to do obstacle courses in the backyard. And we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I'm going to be like super dad. And this is going to be awesome. And month 2 was like, you know how the TV control works, right, darling? Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's your iPad.
Disney called me like a credit card company and said, "Are you aware that you've watched this many shows?" I was like, yeah, I've got to get on Zoom calls. I was doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And I think there was like 80 people on this podcast, and I'm there, and I'm articulating what we do, and I feel this thing sticking up through the chair, into my butt, and I'm like, "What is that?" I look under, and Ella, my daughter, who's 4, is under my chair, sticking her finger through the thing in the chair, and all of a sudden you see this little blonde head rise up from below. And I'm trying to explain to people the philosophy of the club and being professional in it, and she's just staring at the screen, and I just stopped and I burst out laughing. And the guy was like, "Look, it's the new normal. It's okay." But I was so embarrassed. But to be honest, it's been great on one hand because I've spent more time with my kids because I'm usually here like all day, every day into the evening. But it's been, on the other hand, it's been really difficult.
Yeah. So funny you say that. Like it was like the first week of when this stuff hit. I had like an emergency call with Darren and Katie Griggs and maybe Elena, she's Merrick, and how we're gonna function now. Like it's what are we gonna do? Players, who do we need? Content, and I'm giving my spiel and I'm showing a document and everything, and then all of a sudden I have 2 naked kids just running in the background, and I'm like, I'm so sorry.
So that BBC reporter whose kid goes nuts behind him. I was fear on every Zoom call I was on. I was fear to see his head sticking between the doors, and it was fun.
Any new hobbies or home projects you've done?
Oh my goodness!
But you?
First month, I channeled my Percy thrower. Darren knows Percy throwers. He's a famous gardener in England. But I built paths, I built walls, I built a fire pit, I did the playground, I pine strawed the whole backyard, I put down new turf, I went to town. And I'm not handy. Like I would call someone to come and unplug my toilet, rather than try to do it myself because I'd make a mess. And just with time and with, I guess, effort, I've managed to got a backyard oasis now. It's great. And I also, you don't know this, breaking news, I wrote 2 kids' books while we were in lockdown.
Nice.
I was...
oh, really? Tell me about them, mate. What?
So I'm getting it published. I'm going for it. I'm on it. I'm too busy reading books for my kids going to bed, right? And once I got through the books 3 or 4 times, I was like, this is rubbish. Like, what is this I'm reading? No message, nothing in it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to write a book that's got a message behind it. And I wrote the first one in like 40 minutes, all rhyming, all very simple for kids. And then I wrote another one about a week later with another message. So first one's about not being scared of things. Second one's about being kind and not bullying. And then the third one, actually, I'm writing now is about equality, which is very obviously topical. Yeah. But they've all got a message.
So are you going to illustrate them as well? Or?
Done. Already done.
Self-illustrated?
Creativity is my thing. You know me. So
I'm impressed. Yeah, so I'm on episode 57 of my made-up Robin Hood stories. So that's been my one. We started on Robin Hood, and now I just have to make one up. And to be honest, I'm getting stressed now because it gets to about 6 o'clock, and I think, right, I've got to think of something. What's it going to be? It usually involves breaking into Nottingham Castle, though, and just getting the prisoner out.
I'm doing 50 books, my first press, so I'll give you one of mine and see how the kids like it.
Yeah.
But it's called The Bear with Crazy Hair. It basically looks like Baloo from the Jungle Book with Phil Spector hair. It's classic. I love it.
I like it. That's good.
I was shocked.
We got a podcast exclusive here then.
Yeah, that's nobody knows about that until now.
Will you go with your name? Or are you going to have a pen name?
I have a secret ghostwriting name called
Yeah.
Anderson Annan.
Anderson Annan, that's brilliant.
So Anderson's my mum's maiden name and Jack's my son's middle name. And obviously Annan is my name. But I used to be into photography a while ago, and that was my pseudonym for my photographs was Anderson Annan.
That's going to be good. Exciting, bro. That's awesome. That's
Instead of Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my hobbies and accomplishments in lockdown, mate.
Nice. Well, you need a literary agent.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
You got in my book though.
That's good. But hey, so one more quarantine question. How are you guys handling the academy during this time?
Unbelievable. The staff have been fantastic, man. It's been the response I got from them has been absolutely amazing. It's they've set up Google Classrooms. They set up analysis projects. Zach Herold, our youngest coach, but probably the most talented behind Collison. He's been doing Zoom technical sessions with all the kids. They've been jumping on and they've been bantering, and it's been amazing. Some of the stuff. I mean, to be honest, we've discovered things we can do and continue to do that we probably would never have approached. We did calls with West Ham's captain, obviously Jack set those up. We've got Declan Rice this week. But we've done a lot with Atlanta United players too. So Parky came on, Jeff's been on, Miles, Brooks, George Bello, George Campbell, and they've spoken to the kids about their journeys, about their challenges. And so, I mean, as a whole academy, unbelievable job. And the sports science, people have had them running and doing their athletic piece. Obviously, we've had the technical Zoom mastery calls. And then, so we've tried to keep it holistic, but the staff have been amazing. I've never had to ask them twice to do anything. And the engagement from the kids has been phenomenal. So it's been good. It's obviously been frustrating, but we'd rather be here. But it's been good.
Great. So I wanted to changing gears again, because I know you and I think you're a very interesting person. You have some of the best stories I know. Your history. You showed me a photo one time. You played on the English youth team with David Beckham. And according to you, you can tell the story, you were kind of more talented than David Beckham at that time.
Oh, you didn't just say that. I never claimed to be more talented than David Beckham. No, we were under 15 England camp together. Yeah, I was like, we had a few squads. There was he and I and a few other actually players that made it through. Andy Todd, Martin Smith from Sunderland. So we had a really talented little crew that we hung out. David was a year younger than us through school, but he was talented then as well. Absolutely talented. But I never claimed to be better than David Beckham. I'm not going on record on that one.
David, if you're listening, he definitely said that. Because I know you
he still calls me, asks me how to do things.
Like, do you still keep in touch, or
no.
Not a chance? Huh?
It's been a long while. I mean, it's been a good 30 years since we played together on that team. But then all the way through on the England teams, and he played at Man United. Obviously, I was at West Brom, and we crossed paths. So we definitely know each other, but I wouldn't say we're friends. I'm not friends with Bex, if that's what you're asking.
But if you look at the way your sort of paths have gone, he must be looking enviously. Head of the academy, author, about to pen a series that part of the greatest Oasis tribute act in the world.
I mean,
to debut, but
he can't do the worm like me or breakdance like me. He's just a world icon. I mean, what's that? Here I am in Atlanta, Georgia. But yeah, good times. Those are really good times. I would never swap them for the world.
That's good. Tone, what you're keeping with your history, just your background. I think it's very interesting. Kind of Newcastle. I know you're growing up there. Your your love of that city and that club. And then I'd also kind of follow up, Miguel Almiron, or as we know him better as Miggy, going to that club. That had to be kind of cool for you. And I know you still kind of keep in touch with him just with the ties of Newcastle and Atlanta United.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love Atlanta. Atlanta's my city, but Newcastle's my home. And it's my team. I didn't get to play for them. I had to move away and play for a different pro club, which broke my heart. But seeing Miggy go there was obviously great because I love Miggy to death. And I'd always pop into Darren's office and go, any news on that transfer? Yeah. I think Darren thought I was feeding the newspapers over there, you know. But yeah, the guys at Newcastle love him. You know, all the fans and all my friends who are home always love Miggy. And if I had $1 for everybody who asked me, "Are you involved in getting Miggy to Newcastle?" I wouldn't have to write a book. But yeah, I still text him every time he scores, every time he has a good game, and he always texts back straight away, "Thank you, and hope everything's good." So we keep in touch. But it's obviously it's a special place for me.
And funny for Miggy, I mean, it's pretty similar to Atlanta, isn't it? With climate and I mean, talk about a bit of a difference. No wonder he took a bit of time to settle. I mean, for those listeners who don't know, Newcastle is even within England, it's quite a different city to some of the cities down south.
Why don't you just say it like you mean it instead of covering it up with that? That's the nicest Darren's ever been about Newcastle, by the way.
I remember. All right, I'll share. When I was a barrister with my wig and gown, I did my first case in Newcastle County Court. So it was, it ran over. So I was there for a weekend. It was the middle of winter. I'm leaving court on the Friday, and you would honestly think it was the height of summer. What the girls are wearing, you've never seen anything like it, Matt. Like, honestly, it's freezing cold, and they're in the skimpiest things. Yeah. I mean, the Newcastle, they know how to have a good time.
You're not allowed to wear a coat. If you're a guy, you are not allowed to wear a jacket. I came home from America maybe 15 years ago, and it was Baltic. It was sideways rain, freezing, and I had a jacket and a scarf on, and I walked into a bar just to have a look what was going on. And everybody in there looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I took it, and my friend says, "It's because you've got a scarf on." And I was like, "What?" "And you've got a jacket on." I was like, "I'm freezing." And you look around and all these lads from the northeast with just a shirt or just a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So soft. I'm so soft now. But you're not allowed to wear a jacket.
All right, I know. I knew we would go long on this. We got a couple more things because you're fun to talk to, and this is for the listeners and viewers. This is pretty much a day in the life of us at Atlanta United pre-quarantine. We'd get in the office and just talk, and then like, okay, we got to go back to work.
Without the rude joke.
Atlanta United history. We got to go. We've talked. We're we have 5 pillars, but there is a secret 6th pillar. That's that we are built on karaoke. I'd love I'll throw it to you guys about Noasis and what I witnessed on our karaoke nights is some of the greatest things ever. And it always involves Darren and Tony because they pretend like they don't want to sing, but then they do the other song.
I love that. I was just thinking of the number of times Tony and I, it's like, well, go on then. We'll just do one more number. But I mean, we've talked about this though. Tony and I feel like, we've got to launch our Oasis cover band. I think, we've come up with the name Noasis. We've just got to actually have our first gig. So anyone out there who wants to book us, I think, Tony, we just need to go for it. I think we could do it no problem.
Yeah, it's no secret that if I wasn't involved in soccer, I'd be a front man in a band somewhere in the world. I mean, there's no secret about that. And I'm thinking Darren's got a secret desire to do the same, We've had some epic karaoke nights.
Yeah, we've had some good ones. I will tell you one more thing with the viewers. They're not doing justice. They will say, okay, we've already done 5 songs. Let's let someone else do a song. And then someone else did a song, and there'll be like 3 people waiting, and they're like, Tony would be like, "Oh, Darren, you want to do
Beatles.
Can we do the Beatles real quick?
Oh, they've got the Killers. Oh, the Killers are on the list. Oh, let's do the Killers.
Can we do the Killers? The Killers?
No more for me. No more for me. Oh, they do. They have the Killers. Let's do it. We also do Last Christmas better than anybody I've ever seen. Better than Wham even.
Maybe we'll bring back and do a little Last Christmas special for this year.
Yeah, we could do a podcast. And then the other thing Tony is famous for is his comedy stand-up routine.
Yeah.
I've got my father to thank for that. Spending time with him and
Tony's
one-liners
is better than anyone I've ever met. And I don't know, we can edit this part out if you want, but he can even make the owner of the Atlanta United laugh harder than I've ever seen anyone laugh.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I know we're coming to the end, but for me, I mean, it's been a crap year on all fronts. I mean, just things have gone from bad to worse. But there's those moments, I think, like, did that really happen in 2020? And, you know, I'm thinking of the moment where we had the future of Atlanta United meeting on Arthur's yacht earlier this year. And Tony was telling his totally rude that we could not even repeat half of them to the crew and Arthur, and Arthur's just crying tears of laughter.
That right.
Feels like it never happened. That must have been a dream.
Exactly. I think that's so long ago because of this year, but let's get it right. I wasn't up for telling those jokes until Matt volunteered me to do it after some lovely rum and cigar drinks or whatever they were.
The best.
And I was so nervous to tell two jokes. There's two jokes. And Arthur, I've never seen Arthur cry with laughter, number one, but he went to give me a hug before he went to bed and he said quietly, "Those jokes are brilliant." I was like, yeah, I didn't offend anybody. We're good. So
it was that moment of, is it going to be laughter or are you just going to basically be never seen again?
Remember the HR, the very first meeting with HR?
Yes. You got to tell that story.
You got to tell that. It's a classic.
Let me set the scene. So by then it's funny because I think we probably had 15 people.
15
employees. Lisa Chang was in charge of the HR across all the businesses. And we thought, now's the moment. We're starting to gear up into that moment of growth. Let's talk about the culture, the core values, you know, what we see as a philosophy at Atlanta United. And Lisa's like, you know, typical HR. Oh, I've got some icebreakers we can throw in there too. So we've got everyone there. I do my big philosophy piece to open it, hand it to Lisa, and she goes, right, icebreaker. And I think it went to you first, Tony, wasn't it? What was the question?
No, there was a few before me, but it was, what's your favourite colour? What's your favourite TV show? What's your favourite movie? And I was like, all right, I'm going to open mine. It's going to be what is your quirk? What is your quirkiness? What is it? So I'm sitting there and I'm struggling. Like, I don't feel like I'm a quirky person, so I don't have any quirks. So I start thinking quickly, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And all these easy questions. I can use it. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite? And I'm like, how did I get this question? And I was like, this is a moment I could embarrass myself massively in front of all the staff. They may take me as a joker for the rest of the time I'm here. So I was really thinking. I couldn't think of like anything normal, quirky. And I remember when I was a young pro, a guy used to walk around the dressing room before the game with just his socks on and nothing else. Graham Roberts. Remember Graham Roberts? Yeah. So he'd walk around and I'd say, what a weird man. Everyone's putting their shorts on and he'd walk around with nothing on except his socks. So I was like, that's quirky. So she comes to me, she goes, what's your answer? What? And I went, when I stay in hotel rooms, I like to put my socks on first. And I just stopped. And the whole room just kind of was silent. And then a few people burst out laughing and it kind of broke the ice. But I was so embarrassed, I didn't know what to do. But anyway, it was one of them. It's out, it's done. And then
you were typecast from thereafter. You were typecast as the
guy who walks around with just his socks on in hotel rooms. So.
And then Darren, he answers that, and then it comes to me, and it's like, "What's your favorite color, M&M?"
Yeah. I was like, "How'd you get that? How did you manage that one?" Yeah.
No,
good times.
Good stuff. And I wanted to get even more. Darren, have you ever been with Tony? in Atlanta, everyone knows him. You can get a bartender, you can get a tea time, you can get a table. So he is an absolute staple in Atlanta, and I'll have to tell some other stories in the next one because I know we're short on time. But
Soccer connects the world. I've coached a lot of kids and a lot of parents, and that's how I'm connected.
It's good stuff, Tone. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a really fun one. As you can see, I got tears in my eyes, so you know it's been a fun one.
It's not hard to get you laughing, mate.
I know it's not. It's not at all. Not at all. But thank you so much, and look, thanks for everything you've done for the club. Thanks for being my friend and a great colleague and coworker, and we've had great memories, and I hope we have many more when I can get back there and join you in the pavilion and your office. So I really appreciate it and cannot thank you enough. So good luck and stay safe.
Yeah, thanks Tony, and look, great job on Academy, and I'm looking forward to getting our first booking for an Oasis gig. We've got to get out there.
Yeah, you better.
It could be this time next year. We could be millionaires.
Yes, Rodney.
When we get the children's books, let us know. We'll promote that. That's going to be great.
Absolutely,
maybe we can they can sponsor the podcast. We'll get a little little agreement going. That'd be good.
Talk to his agent, Matt. Me.
Yeah. Talk to my lawyer, my barrister, whoever. Talk to him.
All right. Thanks, Tone. This is great.
Guys. Thanks.